Does this sound familiar? It is 2:58 a.m. You've been sleeping soundly. The room is quiet, cool, and dark. Then, just as the clock ticks past 3 a.m., your eyes snap open. You are not half awake. You are instantly fully alert. That specific moment between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. is the most frustrating time for anyone over the age of 60. It feels like a cruel joke. You didn't need to use the bathroom. No sudden noise startled you. Yet, there you are, staring at the ceiling, trying desperately to recapture that feeling of deep rest you just lost. You start the clock calculation. If I fall asleep now, I get 3 more hours. If I fall asleep in 30 minutes, I only get 2.5. This counting game ramps up your stress instantly. The longer you lie there, the more awake you become. The harder you try to relax, the tighter your shoulders get. If this frustrating middle-of-the-night waking ritual is something you experience regularly, please know you are not alone, and more importantly, know that this pattern is not inevitable. Waking up at 3 a.m. is not a random occurrence. It is a specific signal your body is sending you. It's not just poor sleep. It's a very particular kind of energetic imbalance that modern sleep advice almost always misses. And today, we are going to break that 3 a.m. cycle using a simple, effective technique that takes exactly 1 minute. This method comes from a deep understanding of body mechanics and energy flow practiced for centuries in Japan. It is a stretch so gentle, you can do it right on the edge of your bed. It requires zero athleticism. But before we dive into the 1-minute stretch, we must first understand why the 3 a.m. window is so critical. Why is it never 4:30 a.m. when the birds start chirping? Why is it specifically 3 a.m.? Ancient health wisdom, specifically the Oriental body clock, gives us a very precise answer. Between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., your body is deep in the filtering and detoxification stage. It's when your body's critical detox organs, primarily the liver, are actively processing not just physical toxins, but intense emotional ones too. Think of the liver as the central computer that handles stress, anger, frustration, and worry accumulated throughout the day. When you wake up at 3 a.m., it is often because this detoxification process is running too hot. The body is overloaded. The computer is trying to run too many programs at once. This overload floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. These stress chemicals immediately put your nervous system on high alert. And where does this tension manifest most? It gathers in the center of your body, around the core, and specifically in the areas governed by your vagus nerve system. The vagus nerve is the communication highway between your brain and your major organs. When you have accumulated tension, the kind that makes you worry about finances or a doctor's appointment tomorrow, the vagus nerve becomes hyperactive. It essentially tells the body, stay awake, there might be a threat. The simple truth is that most seniors who wake up exactly at 3 a.m. are carrying stored emotional weight and physical tightness that is disrupting the natural flow of their detoxification cycle. Pills won't fix this. Lying there counting sheep won't fix this. We need a targeted, gentle physical release. We need a 1-minute action that tells the vagus nerve system to switch off the alarm and tells the organs to slow down. This is where the Japanese technique excels. It is designed to interrupt this stress feedback loop at its physical source. It is a specific stretch aimed at opening the key hip and side body pathways that correspond directly to this crucial 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. window. But there is a critical pre-step. You cannot just stretch and expect results if you are making 2 common mistakes during the hour leading up to bedtime. These 2 habits virtually guarantee that your body will be stressed and primed to wake you up exactly at 3 a.m. Before we learn the restorative 1-minute stretch, we need to eliminate the nightly habits that are sabotaging your sleep before you even turn off the light. We are going to start with the first, and perhaps most common, mistake, a habit of thinking that increases internal pressure dramatically. This mistake involves how you handle the day's leftovers, the conversations, and the worries that stick to you like static electricity. If you don't manage this mental clutter correctly, no stretch in the world can overcome the internal chaos you create. Let's prepare the mind so the body can finally rest. In the next part, we will detail the 2 silent saboteurs that must be removed from your nightly routine, and then we will ready ourselves for the 1-minute Japanese technique that will change how you experience the early morning hours. Stick with me, and let's make 3 a.m. a time of deep rest, not dread. This specific, frustrating wake-up call at 3 a.m. is not just bad luck. We need to understand exactly what is happening inside your body when that alarm clock suddenly rings in your brain. We already touched on the traditional view of the liver meridian, which governs flow and energy. Now, let us look at the modern, chemical explanation that validates your frustration. It centers on cortisol. This is your primary stress hormone. Around 3 a.m., even in perfectly healthy individuals, the level of cortisol naturally begins a subtle rise. This is the body's internal signal to slowly prepare for waking up a few hours later. It is a normal biological rhythm. But for those of us navigating the accumulated stresses of life, the worries about retirement savings, the concerns for aging spouses, or the everyday nagging anxiety, that subtle rise becomes a destructive spike. If you carry chronic stress, your baseline cortisol level is already high. When the natural 3 a.m. increase hits, it trips a switch in your nervous system. It floods your system with adrenaline. Your body goes into a low-grade fight-or-flight response. Even though you are safe in your bed, your heart rate subtly increases, your muscles tense. Your brain, detecting this internal stress signal, quickly reviews all your outstanding problems. Suddenly, you are wide awake, planning the entire week, worrying about things you cannot solve at that moment. This is the chemical loop that chains you to your ceiling fan. The key to solving this is not just calming the mind, it is calming the physical storage unit where the stress resides. And that unit is almost always the psoas muscle group. The psoas muscles are deep core stabilizers that run from your lower spine through your pelvis to the top of your femur. They are fundamentally linked to our survival instinct. When you are frightened or stressed, your psoas instantly contracts to protect your core. For decades, we have been unconsciously tightening this muscle group every time we felt stress. It never truly relaxes, even when we sleep. A tight psoas is perpetually signaling danger to the brain. It is the physical anchor keeping the 3 a.m. cortisol spike alive and active. This is why simple mental tricks often fail. You cannot simply think your way out of a physiological lock. The Japanese approach, which emphasizes balancing energy flow and addressing deep-seated tension, provides the perfect countermeasure. They understand that to quiet the mind, you must first release the body. The specific 1-minute stretch we will detail is known as the Ashi Nagara, or the gentle foot lengthener. It directly targets this deep psoas tension and the low back stiffness that prevents deep restorative sleep. We are going to perform this stretch from the comfort of your bed or the floor right next to it, ensuring minimal disruption during those middle-of-the-night wakings. But before we initiate the movement, the setup is critical. This stretch requires total surrender for maximum effectiveness. First, preparation. Whenever you wake up between 2:30 a.m. and 4 a.m., resist the temptation to check the time or reach for your phone. Do not flip on a bright light. Slide out of bed and lie flat on your back on the floor, or if getting on the floor is difficult, move to the very edge of a sturdy mattress. You want a position of absolute rest. Place a small, thin cushion or a tightly rolled hand towel beneath your neck, supporting the natural curve of your spine without tilting your head forward. Do not use a thick pillow. The goal is mild alignment. Now, let your legs fall completely loose. Allow your feet to roll naturally outward to the side. Your palms should face the ceiling, resting away from your body. This static pose should be held for the first 15 seconds. This is your mental and muscular transition phase. Before the physical lengthening begins, the nervous system needs to receive its primary instruction. Safety is secured. And that signal comes through regulated breath. We now enter the second phase of preparation, controlled breathing, which lasts for another 30 seconds. This step is non-negotiable for dampening that cortisol spike. Inhale slowly and deeply through your nose. Count silently to 4. Focus on filling your abdomen, allowing your belly to rise like a balloon. Then, exhale slowly through slightly parted lips. Count to 6 or even 7. Push the air out completely, feeling your stomach gently deflate. Repeat this measured breathing pattern, 4 counts in, 6 or 7 counts out. This lengthened exhale engages the vagus nerve, which directly communicates with the parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for rest and repair. By the time you finish this 30 seconds of measured deep breathing, your heart rate will have decelerated. The stress signal will have softened. You have now created the perfect environment to introduce the gentle movement that targets the deep psoas muscle. This movement itself is the final powerful piece of the 1-minute routine, and it is the subject of our next segment. We have established that the 3 a.m. wake-up call is unique. It is too precise to be random. It is not just restlessness. It is an alarm clock set deep within your nervous system. If you have already ruled out the common culprits, the late-night glass of water or the excessive warmth of the room, then we must look deeper. We must look at what your body is trying to process at that exact hour. In many ancient health disciplines, including the traditions that inform Japanese wellness habits, the body is seen as operating on a precise 24-hour internal clock. This clock dictates which organ system is responsible for the deep cleaning and restoration work at any given time. The most critical window for our discussion, the time between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., is known as the peak processing time for the body's chief filter, the liver system. Now, do not immediately think of medical problems. Think instead of function. The liver system in this context is not just about filtering toxins from food or drink. It is also deeply connected to processing emotional toxins, the stresses, the frustrations, and the worries that accumulated throughout the day. Think of everything you faced yesterday, the small annoyance during a phone call, the concern about a child's recent decision, the nagging worry about an upcoming appointment or a financial deadline. You manage these concerns perfectly well during the day. Your conscious mind is busy. But once you fall into deep sleep, your body begins its essential maintenance routine. It tries to sort through these emotional receipts. If the stress has been too heavy, if the tension is locked down too tightly in the muscles surrounding the central core, the liver system cannot complete its work efficiently. It is like a pipeline that is slightly clogged. The pressure builds up. And precisely at 3 a.m., when that peak processing is supposed to be happening, the accumulated pressure is enough to trigger a cortisol spike. This cortisol spike is a sudden jolt of fight or flight chemistry. It is your body's emergency signal forcing you awake because the emotional inventory has become overwhelming. You wake up with a feeling of being alert, maybe even a little anxious, despite the room being quiet and dark. You start running through the mental list of worries that your body was trying to handle quietly just minutes before. This cycle, waking up to worry, is the core habit we must break. So, how does this processing system get physically clogged? When we experience stress or frustration, we unconsciously tighten specific areas of the torso and the deep core muscles. This is a natural protective reflex. We brace ourselves against the world. For people over 60, decades of accumulated stress combined with natural changes in posture and muscle elasticity mean these areas remain chronically tight. This tightness is not felt as a sharp pain, but rather as a low-level pervasive stiffness along the sides of the body, down through the ribs, across the abdomen, and deep into the hips and inner thighs. These areas, the side meridian lines, are precisely the channels that traditional Japanese practices associate with the flow necessary for the liver system to function smoothly overnight. When these channels are locked, that 3 a.m. wake-up is inevitable. The body is literally too tense to remain in restorative sleep. Pills or sleep aids only mask the symptom. They try to knock the conscious mind back out, but they do not solve the physical blockage that caused the alert in the first place. The profound beauty of the 1-minute Japanese stretch we are about to share is its targeted focus. It is designed specifically to release the physical accumulation of emotional tension along these sidelines, the lines that are screaming for relief between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. It is a deceptively simple movement. It does not require immense flexibility or painful exertion. It requires gentle, focused movement to act as a release valve for that pressurized system. Before we dive into the exact technique, understand this. This stretch is not performed just to feel good. It is a strategic intervention. It is a communication to your nervous system that the threat is over, that the deep core is safe to relax, and that the processing pipelines are now open. We are going to give your body the physical freedom it needs to complete its necessary restorative work, allowing you to bypass that jarring 3 a.m. alarm. In the next section, we will walk you through the precise setup and the 1-minute routine that targets this tension. Pay close attention, because the effectiveness relies entirely on the small details of posture. We have covered the exact physical mechanism of this 1-minute Japanese stretch, but technique is only half the battle. The true power lies in precision and integration. This final part focuses on the absolute details you cannot overlook, especially if stiffness or joint pain is a concern for you. Let's refine the movement we established, the gentle supine twist or the knees to chest press. Remember, the clock is not your master. This stretch is a tool of release, not just a muscle action. First, let us perfect the breathing aspect. The single most common mistake seniors make is focusing only on the movement while neglecting the respiration. The Japanese approach, especially in movements designed for internal harmony, dictates that the breath controls the pace. When you are performing the stretch, whether you are pulling your knee gently to your chest or letting your knees fall to one side, the most critical part is the exhale. You must always exhale through slightly pursed lips. Imagine you are gently blowing out a candle from a distance, slow and steady. The inhale should be quick, silent, and deep, filling your lower abdomen, right where the energy center, the hara, resides. The exhale, however, must be deliberately longer than the inhale. Aim for an exhale that is twice as long as the breath you took in. If you inhale for 3 seconds, you must exhale for 6 seconds. This ratio, longer exhale, shorter inhale, is the fastest physical trigger you have for switching your brain from the stress response, sympathetic nervous system, to the rest and recovery state, parasympathetic nervous system. This is why we only need 60 seconds. If you breathe correctly for that 1 minute, your body has no choice but to start calming down. Now, let us address joint safety, which is paramount for our audience. If you have stiff hips, lower back discomfort, or persistent arthritis, listen carefully. Never force the stretch to the point of a sharp, grabbing, or painful sensation. We are aiming for a deep, satisfying pull, not a painful strain. If the floor or the bed feels too hard against your joints when you twist, adapt immediately. Place a small pillow or a rolled-up towel between your knees before you let them fall sideways. This subtle cushion provides necessary stability and prevents the deep compression that can aggravate the lower back. Likewise, if you are bringing your knee to your chest, loop a hand towel around your shin and use the towel to assist the pull. This allows your arms to do the work, protecting your knee joint from excessive direct pressure. The 1-minute stretch should never be an exercise in endurance. It should be an exercise in release. Your consistency is more important than your depth. A shallow, comfortable stretch done nightly will yield vastly better results than a deep, painful one done sporadically. Let's talk about integrating this into your nightly flow. The ultimate goal is to preempt the 3 a.m. waking. You are using the stretch defensively before the cortisol spike even happens. You should perform this 1-minute routine just before your head hits the pillow. It is the final ritual. Do it immediately after you dim the lights, but before you pick up your book or try to sleep. It is your physical signal to your brain. The day is done. We are cleansing the stress. But what if you still wake up at exactly 3 a.m. or 3:17 a.m. or any time in that critical window? The primary rule is this: do not get frustrated and do not look at the clock. Middle of the night waking often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because the anxiety of losing sleep time fuels adrenaline. If you wake up and you realize it is that familiar time, your strategy is simple. Stay exactly where you are. Do not get up for a drink of water or check your phone. Gently shift into the supine position and perform your 1-minute Japanese stretch in bed. You do not need to stand up or find your yoga mat. The bed offers the perfect support for this gentle movement. You might not need the full 60 seconds. Sometimes, simply taking 4 or 5 of those deep, long exhales while gently flexing your torso is enough to reset your internal chemistry. The objective is not to fall back asleep instantly. That pressure creates more anxiety. The objective is to change your chemical response from panic to calm, right there in the dark. This stretch forces the body to relax the tension around the midline, the abdomen, the lower back, the psoas, which, as we discussed, are the areas most stressed by the cortisol surge. By targeting the physical tension, you interrupt the mental loop of anxiety. Remember the 3 pillars of this effective rapid response system. Pillar 1. The movement. Gentle stretch, never forcing, always cushioning vulnerable joints. Pillar 2. The breathing. Exhale longer than you inhale, double the length every time. Pillar 3. The mindset. If you wake, accept it. Do not look at the clock. Use the 60 seconds to anchor yourself back to peace. If you commit to this simple technique for the next 7 nights, you will notice a palpable difference in the quality of your deep sleep and the diminishing frequency of those frustrating 3 a.m. appearances. This is not a quick fix, it is a foundational change. It is the wisdom of using precise, short action to counteract deep-seated stress. Continue practicing this powerful, minute-long ritual tonight, and we will explore how combining this stretch with a forgotten dietary component can further solidify your restful nights in our next session.